Hi friends, welcome back to the Avocado Toast Budget. If you're new here, my name is Lexa, and today is kind of like a promised follow-up to the last video that I did, which I just want to thank you all so much because I was really nervous to post that video. I honestly thought no one would watch it. I thought everyone came to my channel for personal finance, and if I posted a personal video that it wouldn't there just wouldn't be many people that were that interested. And the response has just been completely overwhelming, and I am so thankful for all of your support and kind words and just all of you holding space for me right now. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, definitely go watch that video. I will link it down below if you're curious. If not, me and my partner recently broke up. I have moved back home temporarily until I figure out what is next. And because of that, I have a lot of reorganizing to do with my finances. So I wanted to hop on here, walk you through that process, just show you what I'm thinking. It's not going to be perfect, but I think it's going to be very helpful, especially if you either A, need to redo your finances inside of YNAB or just kind of in general, or B, are also going through a breakup, you need some advice, you just need like some perspective on what it looks like to kind of rearrange your finances after that happens. So here we are. I am going to do all of this on YNAB. It stands for You Need a Budget. It is my favorite zero-based budgeting software. To be perfectly honest with you, because of everything that has kind of been up in the air the last month or two, I haven't been that good about sticking to my budget, tracking my expenses, anything like that. So I want to create a budget that is going to work for me, that I can stick to, and that is going to cater to where I'm at in my life right now. So if you're curious either how to start a budget inside of YNAB, how to create a new budget in YNAB, or just how I'm navigating my finances after a breakup, this video is for you. Let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, in this case, let me just hop over first to what my budget kind of looked like beforehand, and you'll see if you compare like this screenshot to where we're gonna be starting, I have not touched this budget in a while. So this is not accurate at all, but it is going to give me a baseline of like what expenses I need to keep, which ones I need to get rid of. Plus, I'm also going to be referencing our joint account budget. Because if you don't know, we had split up our finances. Each of us put 30% of our income into a joint account. That joint account covered joint expenses. There are no longer joint expenses, but there's money left in this joint account. So what we did, which worked for us, is that we just paid off everything that needed to be paid off for the month of August. Our joint account also covered September's rent. I thought that that was fair. She's staying in that apartment. I thought if I was a regular roommate, I would be paying another month of rent anyway. I wasn't gonna leave her having to scramble and cover a huge expense of rent. So our joint account had already budgeted for that anyway. It took care of that. And then we are just splitting up the rest of whatever is left over after paying off our credit card 50-50. I am very thankful. I've had a situation where it's been very smooth sailing when it comes to finances with like the splitting up of things. We're both kind people. We both care about each other still. It wasn't some sort of a huge falling out, which I know can be really hard for a lot of people. And I know that we're very privileged in the sense that both of us wanted to see what was best for each other and also balancing our needs as well. So there really hasn't been any fights about finances. That has been true throughout our relationship. That was never a fight, and I'm very thankful that even as our relationship came to an end, that still stayed true, because I can't imagine how much more stressful this would have been if we were fighting back and forth and nitpicking over everything about finances. So first things first, this joint account no longer is going to be in my budget. However, there are some expenses that I know I'm going to need to take on that I want to highlight. I know I'm going to need to take on both pet insurances because I have both Kat, Story, and Oliver. I am going to be taking over iCloud, and I actually increased iCloud because I need more room. So I'm going to go ahead and put that into the budget. And then just things kind of like cat food and litter, some of the household items, vacations, all of those things I'm going to need to cover. So again, I have not looked at this budget in a while, so this number over here isn't actually accurate. We've paid off our credit card. We did have a few more expenses to take care of. Our joint account went ahead and covered a year of our phone bills because I have a reward system and an affiliate code with Mint, which is who we do our phone bill through. Like, most of it was on her account, some of it was on mine, and just to like make it even and easier, our joint account just went ahead and paid for like the full year on both of our accounts, so neither one of us will have to worry about a phone bill for another year, which I am so thankful for, is so nice. But that obviously brought our total down a little bit. So I just went ahead and calculated it. After all is said and done, each one of us is getting $986. Now, keep in mind, whenever I'm doing this, I have my toolkit for YNAB enabled. So if something looks a little bit different on your end, that is why. So inside of YNAB, there are two different options for creating a new budget. You can either just create a new budget, completely like brand spanking new. It'll give you, it's like you're setting up YNAB for the first time, or you can create a fresh start. Oh, perfect. So whenever you click on make a fresh start, I had to like Google it because I haven't done it in a long time. I couldn't remember exactly what it kept. It tells you right here. So it keeps your linked accounts, all of that information, your balances, any transactions that you've had go through today, scheduled transactions, and your categories and targets. For me, so much of my budget is changing, plus I haven't kept up with my budget. A fresh start would probably be more complicated than it needed to be, so I am just going to go ahead and create a whole new budget. Okay, so at some point in time, my screen, for whatever reason, decided it was going to stop recording. So here we are. You didn't get to see me inputting in any of my accounts, so that's okay because none of that was like really the important part. So I've named my budget. I decided that I was going to just create a whole new budget instead of making a fresh start. Now I have input all of my accounts. Whenever you go into YNAB, the first thing that I like to do is add my accounts. YNAB will prompt you and ask if you want to do a linked or an unlinked account. Linked means that it connects to your bank and then it will input your transactions automatically. YNAB will never make transactions for you in your bank. It's like a one-way street. It's basically just letting YNAB say, hey, I can read the transactions going in and out of your account. So if you miss anything, if you need to line anything up, I can do that for you. However, if you just unlink an account, that means you are manually saying to YNAB, hey, this is my account, this is how much is in it. I am going to go through and put in all of my paychecks and also everything that I spend to help it line up. With a linked account, YNAB will also go ahead and input transactions automatically. You go through and clear them. I personally like a mixture of the two. I have questions all the time of whether you should do a linked or an unlinked account. I like to link all of the accounts that I can, and then I just try to hold it to myself that I am going to manually input my transactions, but having my accounts linked means that if I forget a transaction or something comes through that I didn't see, it is going to pop up inside of my budget and say, hey, we don't recognize this transaction, you need to approve it. Is this something that we need to put somewhere? Where do we need to assign it? Just a heads up, this money went in or out. And I really like that because then I'm not sitting there struggling, wondering why my account is different than what is reflected in YNAB and spending like hours trying to balance it all out. So for most of my accounts, including all of my credit cards and my Capital One accounts, I have those linked inside of YNAB. However, I have lots of accounts, and if you're looking here going, holy shit, why does she have so many checking and savings accounts? That is because I try out different apps. I try out what works better for me. That way I can recommend different ideas to you. So sometimes I have like random amounts sitting inside of different accounts. You do not need this many checking and savings accounts. I get this question all of the time. Really, one checking account, one high yield savings account is good for most people. So don't look at my budget and think, wow, she has so many checking and savings accounts, she must know something I don't. There's not like a real budget reason for it. So like I said, the first step that I like to take is just going through inside of my YNAB budget and inputting all of my accounts. Inside of YNAB, it differentiates between budget accounts and tracking accounts. Right now, I'm just worried about budget accounts. This is the money that actively needs to be budgeted. Tracking accounts are things like your investments, student loans, and mortgage. I like to add these to my budget because they help YNAB track your net worth, but they don't actually affect the money going in and out of your budget, so I'm not gonna worry about those for now. Just know the only things I've added so far are my checking and savings accounts and then also my credit cards. I went ahead and inside of my budget, I deleted all of the original categories and category groups that YNAB had assigned. I'll show you an example. When you come over here and click a new budget, this is what YNAB is going to look like. It gives you some category groups and categories to work off of. Personally, I just set up my budget differently than they have it in here. So for me, it's easiest to just click on this and delete all of the categories. So that's what we're working with here on my budget. We're working with all of the categories deleted, but when I put my credit cards in, YNAB automatically generates this credit card payments category group with all of my credit cards underneath it. That's because YNAB works differently with credit cards. I love it. I think it's like the secret sauce of YNAB. If you have questions about that, you want to know how to navigate paying off credit cards or just how to spend money on credit cards in your YNAB budget, I will link the video I did on that up here. But just know, when it comes to your credit cards, you don't need a separate payments category group. YNAB's going to do that for you. So after we have input all of our accounts inside of YNAB, the next step is to add in our categories and our category groups. YNAB, if you didn't know, is based off of a zero-based budget, meaning that you are giving every dollar a job. So you need to know all of your bills, some like estimates of your variable expenses, and then also have in mind some of your savings goals. I've been doing this for a while with YNAB, so I know kind of how I like to have my budget set up. So I'm just gonna go ahead and show you the kind of flow that I like in my budget. The first thing I wanna focus on are bills. So that is going to be my category group, just kind of like my umbrella category. And then inside of it are going to be all my individual bills. And I want to show you how I like to name my categories because I like to have a lot of information just in the category name. The first thing I like to do is I always like to add an emoji that just kind of represents whatever it is. So this first one is going to be my State Farm car insurance. So I'm going to add a little car emoji, put State Farm, and then if there's a due date, I like to put the due date and the total amount of that bill. This just gives me a good look at what is going on with this bill without having to like click in here and get the information off to the side. I'm going to repeat this with the rest of the bills that I have. Okay, then once I have those in, I like to order them from the like earliest in the month to the last of the month. So I'm going to do that. That was easy. And now that I have all of my bills, I'm going to add in all of my variable expenses. So category group, variable expenses. And when it comes to variable expenses, this is a little bit different because you don't spend the same amount of money on gas or groceries every month. And it's not like a bill that's due on a certain date. So you have to kind of estimate. If you're new to budgeting and you have no clue what you spend on these different categories, I recommend going back through the last 2 to 3 months of your bank accounts and credit card statements and averaging out how much you have spent on these things. For me, I've been budgeting long enough to know kind of what I spend in these categories, and I have a way to help if I happen to overspend, and I'll show you what that is in a second. This is the part that is really going to change for me because before, my expenses were expenses of someone who worked from home in a small apartment in Metro Detroit with a partner. And now my expenses are someone who works from home in Missouri and lives at home and is thinking about moving to my own apartment but isn't quite sure when or where. So I need to start thinking about what my spending is going to look like, but also preparing for the fact that within the next couple of months, it's probably going to change a lot, and that's totally okay. The first thing that I'm going to do is just set aside $300 for household contributions. This I'm just thinking is just like random stuff that I help out with since I am living at home, whether that's like getting dinner for the family, some groceries, just little things here and there. Then I'm going to have some grocery categories. I'm planning on spending around $350. I actually think it'll be less than this, but again, I want to give myself some wiggle room. Cat food and litter, that used to be part of our joint account, but now I have both cats, so I need to make it part of my personal account. So I'm going to add that into my budget. This varies from month to month, but on average, it's like usually $75 to $100 a month. So I'm just gonna go on the higher end of things. Then I wanna give myself some money on eating out. Before, my budget was like $75 for eating out. I didn't really eat out that much, but at home, I definitely eat out more than I usually do. So I am going to up my budget to $200 a month. Lucky for me, just in general, the cost of living in Springfield, Missouri is way less than in Metro Detroit. So that also does help give me some wiggle room in my budget. And if I find that I'm spending a lot less in these categories, then I can just go ahead and adjust accordingly. I also love couponing, and I tend to give myself a budget of like $25 out of pocket every week. So per month, that is going to average to $100. So I'm gonna give myself some money to spend on couponing stuff. I also need money for gas. I do drive a lot more here than I did in Michigan, but gas is also a lot cheaper here than it was in Michigan. So I'm gonna stick around $100 a month. Then giving myself some fun money. And then I did mention that I have like some ways to give myself some wiggle room inside of my budget, especially when it comes to variable expenses. And since my lifestyle is so different now, I don't know exactly how much I'm gonna spend. So I always create not one, but 2 different oh shit categories. this one being the first one, of $100. Basically, this is just if I overspent on something, if I bought something that was outside of the budget, if I spend money that I didn't think that I was going to spend, it can come over here, or this money can be used to cover overspending in other categories. And I just realized I totally forgot my emojis because they weren't on my like little draft that I'm looking at to make sure I covered everything. So I'm going to go back through and quickly add all of that. Okay, now that I have my emojis in there, my next category group is going to be my sinking funds. I love sinking funds. Sinking funds are all of the non-monthly expenses that if we break them down into monthly savings goals, it's a lot easier to fund whenever they come. Things like Christmas, car repairs, car tags, if you have like yearly insurance premiums, this is very helpful for that, because a lot of times these expenses get lost in our budget because they're not a monthly expense, that we forget that they are part of our budget and we need to be saving up for them, knowing that we're going to spend that money along the way. My favorite is Christmas, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. And then this one's going to be a little different because up until now, this number that I put right here was how much I'm setting aside per month. This one is actually going to be my overall goal. So my goal is to have $500 to spend by Christmas this year. And I'm actually just gonna go ahead and copy this and create a second sinking fund that I probably will move once we start assigning all of our money for the year 2022, since Christmas is coming up so close to now. The next big thing that I have to start preparing for that I have not had to worry about in the past is health insurance. I turned 25 in March. No, I already turned 25. I turned 26 in March, and I will no longer be on my parents' health insurance, and I will also be self-employed, so it's probably going to be hella expensive. So I'm gonna go ahead and start saving up now for just like the general cost of that. And I haven't decided if I wanna go for the one that's less every month and more out of pocket, or vice versa. So I just wanna have a good chunk of change there to either cover my out of pocket expenses or to cover like those higher premiums. Now this one I don't have a specific amount in mind for like an end goal, but I just wanna make sure I set aside like $200 a month starting as soon as possible. So I'm going to specify that here. Now I'm just going to go through and do the same exact thing with the rest of my sinking funds. I just want to pause here and talk about this one because I'm currently living at home, but I want to get my own apartment soon, just as soon as I decide where I want to live, what kind of lifestyle I want to live, how much is affordable for me to live in. I want to start setting money aside for my apartment. So for things like the security deposit that you have to make, the down payment, the application fee, anything that I'm going to need to buy, because I don't currently have a storage unit. So anything I'm keeping from my old apartment has to fit in here at home with me, which isn't a lot. I won't have any furniture. I'll have like some wall decorations and like my stuff, but I am probably going to need to buy a lot of new things. So I want to make sure that I have some money set aside to make sure I don't have to like struggle or go into debt to buy those things for my new apartment. Side note though, I am very excited to be able to decorate an apartment like in whatever way I want. That is a big thing for me. I have lots of dreams for what I want my apartment to look like, and obviously relationships are about compromise, and we compromised in a lot when it comes to like decorations and things, and neither one of us ever felt like we had our own space since we were coexisting in such a small apartment together. But now all of the space, I'll be able to decorate it however I want. So I want to make sure that I have enough money and a cushion there for me to be able to create the space that I enjoy, since I not only will be working from home, but I will be living in the same place that I work. I want to make sure I really, really enjoy that space. Okay, so I have all of my sinking funds here. As we can see, some of them are going to be one of those things that I need a certain amount of money by a specific date, like Christmas, and then also my Mint, which is like our phone dealer. But I will show you how to navigate that inside of YNAB once we get all of our categories in there. So that is it for my sinking funds. My next category group is going to be my emergencies. These absolutely are still technically sinking funds, but I just wanted to categorize them a little bit differently since this was just like such a big chunk of space inside of my budget. I wanted to break it down a little bit more. So I have vet bills. Again, our joint account used to cover this, but now my personal account will need to cover it. So I am just going to go ahead and have like $500 in total in here to be my goal. Next are going to be car repairs. I want to put $100 a month toward that. And then again, my second oh shit category And if you're wondering what the difference is, I look at my first oh shit category under my variable expenses as like covering my month-to-month overspending. This is more of like my emergency fund. Like I really forgot something big that I need to purchase, or I have a huge car repair I wasn't prepared for, something that is more like a bigger expense that I don't have planned for in my budget, rather than just those like small little month-to-month things. And lastly, I have medical, which is going to be $100 a month. Okay, I promise we're getting close. 2 more category groups for me. One is going to be my annual fees. Again, technically these could be sinking funds. I just want to separate them. My first one is going to be the Capital One annual fee, and that is $40 for May of 2022. I then have my Chase annual fee. That one is $95, and for me, it's due in August. And then lastly, I have Done, which is the online prescriber I use for my ADHD medication. Even though the annual fee is so high, it actually ends up being cheaper to use this service than it would be for me to go to a psychiatrist and a doctor to get that prescribed. So I just opt for this one. Okay, whew. Now we are done going through and putting in all of our expenses. Honestly, this is the thing that like takes the longest time, but trust me, it is so worth it because now I'm going to have a budget that works for me and is organized, and I'm so excited. One last thing I'm just gonna do, just because I like it better, is I'm gonna rearrange kind of how this is. I like to have credit cards at the top, then my bills, then my variable expenses, then my sinking funds, annual fees, and emergencies. The next step that I have to do is assign every single category a target. These used to be called goals inside of YNAB. Basically, all it is how much do I need to put aside every month in order to stay on track with what my plan is. This, again, like credit cards, is like the secret sauce of YNAB. If you have questions about which target to choose and you just want to know more about those, I will link my YNAB goals video up here. This was pre-YNAB changes, so they changed the name from goals to targets, but literally it all still applies. So if you have questions, go check out that video. But this is where it comes in handy that I put this information in the name. Now all I have to do is highlight the category, click create target, and then I choose the amount. And I know from looking here that I need $136.69 every month. I'm going to keep this as a needed for spending goal monthly, and then even if I want to, I can tell YNAB that this is due on the 4th, so it knows this is something that is coming due at the beginning of the month. So if I'm living paycheck to paycheck, it's going to help me assign my money where it needs to go first. And in this case, it might be that I need to cover State Farm before I'm covering something like my iPhone payment, since that's not due until the end of the month. And now basically what this tells YNAB is it is going to let me know that I need to assign this money every month inside of this category in order to reach my goals. There is a reason I think it's so important that you assign some sort of a target to every single category. We'll go over that here in a second, but I am just going to go ahead and go through and assign all of my categories a target. Pretty much all of my bills are going to be the same needed for spending target. I just have to specify the amount. And then also the date, because why not? My variable expenses, same thing. I like to keep them as needed for spending targets. That's what makes the most sense to me. Okay, and then I'm actually going to make this smaller just so it's a little bit easier to see this information over here, and we don't really need that right now. So next is sinking funds. This is where it's going to change. Up until now, I've used the same type of target, but for example, for my yearly plan, I am actually going to need this money by a specific date, and that date I know is September 1st of 2022. So I'm going to tell YNAB that by September of 2022, I know I need $360 to spend to be able to cover my phone bill. I can also hit repeat, so once September of 2022 rolls around, I have it repeat every year. I don't have to worry about creating a new target. I'll click save, and this is where it's nice because now YNAB is telling me, it's doing the math to let me know I need to set aside $27.70 every month in order to reach this goal. I love this. YNAB will adjust if I happen to put more in there. If I happen to not reach my goal, it will adjust over time to make sure that I have that money in there by that date. This is the same thing for Christmas. I know that like by December-ish, I want this $500. So it's still a needed for spending, but I'm gonna click by date. This one is 2022, because I like to plan ahead a little bit. Again, I can have it repeat every year, $500, save. It does the math. I need to save $31.25 every month to reach that goal. a lot easier to save $30 a month than it is to shell out $500 in one paycheck right before Christmas. This is why I love sinking funds so much. Same thing, except this one is December 1st of 2021. I'm not going to have this repeat because I already have this goal right here. Since these are monthly targets, they're just the normal monthly needed for spending, so I'm gonna go ahead and add all of those. Annual fees, very similar to these first sinking funds that we did. You tell YNAB how much you need, when you need it, and it will break it down into a monthly goal for you. Now, for my vet bills, I could attack this in a few different ways, but I actually think what I'm going to end up doing is just fund this $500 in total right away. So I am just going to create an open-ended goal where I have $500 in there. And then that's it. This blue shows us that every single category, this one will load here in a second, needs some sort of an amount of money in order for us to reach our goals. So now that we're done giving every category a target, I told you there was a reason this is important, and that is because of this total monthly goals number right here. Basically what this number is telling me is that every month I need to bring in around $3,600 in order to reach all of these goals and to not get behind. So you want to look at this number and say, is this realistic to me? Is this way more than I make? Is this way under? And if so, what do I need to do to go about adjusting that? For me, this is pretty much spot on, so I am good there. But this is the reason why I think it's so important that we give every single category a target. That way you get an idea of whether your budget is realistic or not. Okay, so now that we have all of that covered, we are going to start giving our money a job. So we need to decide what this $16,000 needs to do for me. And you might be thinking, holy hell, that's a lot of money. You could cover like, what, 3, 6, 9, 12. You could cover about 5 months worth of expenses. And that's true, except we have to think back to my last budget. Things like a new car or Christmas this year. I already had money inside of these goals because I've been saving up for them for a long time. So I don't want to just go back to square one and have no money in any of these goals and start building up again. Because what happens if my car breaks down right now and I only have like this month's contributions in there? I want to set aside an amount that makes sense for me and makes me feel comfortable. The first thing that I'm going to do is cover my credit card in full. I like to do this just by clicking underfunded. It will automatically pull in the exact amount of money that I need. I'm gonna do the same thing for bills because bills I know are just a month-to-month basis. I wouldn't have had any money saved up in any of these categories. Same thing goes for variable expenses. Click that underfunded button and it's so easy. This is again another awesome reason to have targets on everything because once you put in the time that we just did, it's going to be so easy to just budget on a month-to-month basis because YNAB will automatically pull in all of that money and put it exactly where it needs to go. For my sinking funds, this is where I need to start deciding where do I want to put more money in and what sinking funds do I want to already have built up. For me, I know Christmas 2021, I already plan to have fully covered. It's coming up here close anyway that I'm gonna have to start buying some gifts. So we can see if I clicked underfunded, that's only going to pull in the amount that it needs to save up from here every month until Christmas. But I just wanna go ahead and put all $500 in there. When it comes to a vacation, we had like $1,000, maybe a little bit more set aside for a vacation inside of our joint account. So I don't want to start at zero from that. I need a vacation and I want some money. I also know that we're going to Mexico in like next year sometime. So I want to have some money saved up for that. So I'm going to go ahead and put $1,000 toward a vacation. Please do not feel bad if you're looking at this thinking, oh my God, but I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I couldn't fund all of these categories. That was me when I started. This is the result of over a year of budgeting and tracking things and saving my money. So if you are someone who is living paycheck to paycheck, you don't have any money in your account and you're wondering how to use YNAB, I've made videos on that. I will link them here and also in the description box down below. My new apartment, this is something that I also want to have some extra money towards, so I'm gonna go ahead and just put $1,000 in there for now. My new car, I actually already had almost $3,000 saved up for a new car, so I'm going to put that here. I'm gonna assign $1,000 to health insurance preparation because again, I really wanna build that up before it's due. And then I'm just going to go through and highlight the rest of my categories, click this underfunded button, and it is going to make sure that I am funded fully for the month of September. Personally, I always like to be ahead in my budget, so I'm going to do that exact same thing for the month of October as well. Getting ahead by a month just gives me a buffer. If something were to happen to my income and I didn't make any money, I at least know that all of my bills and my savings goals are covered from September through October, and I have a little bit of buffer and time to work with before I need to figure out a way to make some more money. Now we can see this leaves me with $4,000. I need to decide where this money is going to be best served. I did say that I want to go ahead and fully fund this vet bills category, so I'm going to put $500 in there. I also want to make sure that I have a good buffer inside of my car repairs category, so I'm going to put $1,500 here. Same thing with medical. I do have my health insurance preparation up here, but this is more so like any medical that happens before then. I'm going to put $500 here. I'm going to add $250 to giving. And then I'm actually going to create a temporary category group and category for moving expenses. I have to go back up to Michigan and get some of my stuff. I know that's gonna cost some money. I'm not going with like a moving company. I'm just taking whatever I can fit in my mom's car because moving company was hella expensive and I don't have anything that is worth that amount of money. But just in case, I'm gonna put $500 in this category so I have some money to spend on gas if we need a place to stay or anything else that happens to come up. I'm gonna add another $500 toward this oh shit emergency category. I'm gonna top off, add another $500 to a new apartment. Excuse me. Sorry, it's my cats. Hey! No tearing up things. And then this last $108, I'm going to put toward technology in case I ever need to replace like my camera, my phone, or my computer. And then that is it. We can look up here and see all of our money has been assigned. I feel really good about this budget and I can use this moving forward to start making decisions about my spending and what kind of things I am saving for. I really hope that this helped you to conceptualize how to create a budget inside of YNAB, how to change up your budget, or kind of what it looks like to redo a budget after a life change or a breakup, or just you are needing something else that works for you. I have a feeling that this video was just kind of all over the place, but I still hope that you enjoyed and it was helpful. If you did, please remember to give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm, helps boost this video to the top. That way more people can find this content. And I will see you all next time. Bye.